Make yourselves comfortable, folks. It's rapidly turning into ICRPG a day month. Enjoy. Question 5. Why will they like this game? To answer question 5, I'm staying on the ICRPG Love Boat and the GM's guide. I mentioned there's loads of guidance in there. One of the things that I like about Hank's approach is the kind of the passion that he brings to the game, and how seriously he takes his role. So much so that he's got an oath, and he suggests that as a GM you take this oath. I will read it out for you quickly, and it all will become clear. I will let the torrent flow. I will remember everything. I will build a world from their actions. I will be an architect. I will be poetic. I will be energetic. I will lift them up and vanish. I will be a beacon of camaraderie. I will be a terror to behold. There you go. I love stuff like this. He describes players as the lifeblood of a good tabletop session, so naturally you want to hook them in and keep them coming back. And he therefore describes the games master as the heart, so keeping that lifeblood flowing through the game, pumping. He also describes the GM as moving the story, so not just pushing the players, but moving and making the story, moving the fluid of the story is his exact words, raising pressure and then releasing it, just like a heart pumping. And he talks about how you go unseen, so there's a subtlety there to being a GM, but you're striving, you never stop improving, and you dedicate yourself to bringing out the best in others. It's this kind of writing from Hank that, maybe some people will mock it, but I can't help it. I know it's a little bit corny perhaps, but I still find it inspiring. And there's no doubt about it. I think he does this stuff. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but that larger-than-life personality and that kind of, what do you call it? Would it be hubris? Would it be... Is he bombastic? Is it hyperbole? I don't know. These are all big words for early morning with a half-awake brain. So let's drill down into some of the elements of this oath. So the first, I will let the torrent flow. He's talking about the creative leadership of the game. It starts in solitude. The classic DM sitting there with pen and paper. It's about unleashing your ideas without structure, or, as he says, intended results. You're sitting with your journal. Be honest, jot down everything that pops into your mind. It's plenty of time to form structure and codify game systems and make things cogent. But what he's suggesting here is you just let the river flow. It's about getting contact with your child mind, the limitless mind, as he calls it. Then he talks about remembering everything. He talks about this quite a lot, actually, trying to develop your memory and keeping things simple and developing a knack for recalling rules and details. Now, I find this quite difficult. I have done work on my memory recently, and I'm making some headway on that, but he has a nice way of condensing things and presenting oftentimes things in threes, snappy little chunks that for some reason they just click with me. He talks about bullet noting and reminders, condensing things, how this helps you to make your game dynamic and rich. And by remembering lots of details, you develop this richness from countless sources. Then I will build a world from their actions. You have a little world to begin, and then the rest will form organically. Quite often though, I might just start with a big old map. There's always blanks on that map and the edges are kind of fuzzy. Who knows what's going on around those edges? But I like making maps, so that's quite often something that I will do. I focus in on one spot and I build outwards. He's suggesting being devious and use nuance and detail, name the roads, meet old family members, find wonder in every word. World building is not done with the hand of God, but with the nibbling of worms, is an exact quote from the book, and I know exactly what he means there. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of the tables in Maze Rats. It's the words. Sometimes one word, if it's the right word, can just set you off and running. And being a podcaster and listening to podcasts, I've noticed this happen. A great person for this is my old buddy John Large. He has a wide and interesting vocabulary. There's this kind of, I don't know whether it's Englishness to it. I like to think, being a fellow Englishman, we share an understanding of the language, but there's a certain floweriness that I think John enjoys, and it always makes me chuckle quietly to myself in appreciation. And that choice of words is crucial, and I believe Hank is a big fan of that. Reading this, it certainly comes across that way. Then, I will be an architect. It's essential to have a comprehension of how space affects behaviour, combat and visual revelation. I've noticed quite often when you look at some of the adventure and encounter design that Hank uses, he'll use a section through a space instead of the classic top-down view. And I think at times I've used this for an adventure beneath Cragmore Castle with Ankegs in their burrow. I used a similar idea, a section through the structure, and I think sometimes that just wakes up your mind to the space in a different way and can make for a different play experience. You get a greater sense of the height involved, and once you start thinking like that, it just changes things. It changes things in quite dramatic ways, I think. I will be poetic. Well, this turns a little bit back into the business of words and wordplay. The poetry of a good story is challenging and sublime, skill that relies on practice and chance. It takes a brave soul to attempt the poignant, appeal to the humanity of players, not just their treasure hoards. I mean, I haven't got too much to add to that. I think some of the best RPG sessions I've been involved in involve a dilemma, particularly of late playing in Curse of Strahd. That dilemma can be a result of blurring of distinction between good and evil and right and wrong. Treasure at that point not coming into it. Well, I can find myself getting quite into a game, wrestling with these decisions at times, and I guess when that gets tragic or poignant, you know, there's a level of poetry involved. I will be energetic. Well, he says no single element will kill a night of fun faster than fatigue, and that is absolutely 100% correct. When you come to the table, come like a tiger. When it feels like an obligation, rest. You as the GM set the tone, so be alert, bright-eyed and ready for anything. I will lift them up and vanish. So what he's saying here is the story's not about you, it's this subtlety. It's about the heroes. You're only visible when there's no other way. You are the player's biggest fan. I know this is a contentious one, but I am always a fan of the players. This doesn't mean you let them always succeed. Obviously, it's been said many a time. And you don't want to be that GM that wants to outshine the players. This is where the DMPC can be a classic trap for this one. Your work is a path to their greatness, never your own. So it's building up, lifting up the players, sharing and shining that spotlight around the table, lifting everybody up. Probably one of the main contributing factors to getting people to come back, if they feel part of the session and they're getting a chance to play. There's nothing worse than sitting at a table feeling like you may not have even bothered. You may as well have just carried on doing what you was doing instead of carving out a bit of time to play the game. If you're just sitting there and not actively getting involved. Now, that's fine. If you like that sort of thing, that's fine. But I like to be actively involved in my RPGs because otherwise I could go and sit and read, or I could watch a film. And this is not talking about being the centre of attention. When I say being involved, I mean that's being involved in part of a team activity, not just in a observing role. Then he says, I will be a beacon of camaraderie. So following on quite nicely there, gathering at a table for mugs and stories is one of the oldest and greatest traditions of our world. I've talked about this. I've heard many other people talking about it. Being social gamers, getting together with their friends, being a major part of it, making a whole event out of the business of role-playing. He says, greet with a smile and an open hand. Be a masterful host. Treat every player as friend and equal. I mean, that's excellent advice, and I think we're all well aware of that one. And last, and probably the most tongue-in-cheek, I would say, is I will be a terror to behold. So the way he frames this, now for your final form, a thing of nightmare, a devious, intelligent, merciless doombringer. The players will see 1,000 deaths, each darker than the last, and this fear drives them. You are the brutal teacher. You are as forgiving as you are sadistic. You are a myriad of voices, 1,000 perils, and even more triumphs. You are everything and nothing. You are a games master. And I can't add anything to that. And there you go, that is a wrap. A big thanks goes out to the pit crew, the generous folks supporting my endeavours over on Spike Pit Patreon, and a big thanks goes out to you, the listener, for taking a bit of time out of your day to listen to old Spike Pit. Take care, and I'll catch you later.